Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Ah, I
That was a deep sigh.
oh gosh, girl, I'm thankful. It's another day, it's another morning. So we're gonna take it like that. It's been a rough week.
Oh,
It's been a rough
honey,
week.
please. Trust, not trust. I know. Trust. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it was a rough one for sure.
yeah.
But we're here.
Yes, we are. We are. We are. Oh my goodness. Like my face is swollen, everything's swollen.
Oh
So
no.
I'm
How
like,
come?
I don't know. I'm going through some kind of autoimmune, like, I don't know, inflammatory business going on here, from my
Yeah.
hair to my skin to The swelling goes down though, like throughout as the day progressed, but
Mhm.
the itchiness and just all of those annoying things. But I know it's just all stress related, and I just have to work on that.
So why did that happen to me not this week but week before last? Just
Wow.
out of the blue. But it was like my eyes, like I had these whelps on
Hmm.
my eyelids and it was like extremely itchy. I was out with the girls getting their hair done. I had to like run to CVS, just to get some cortisone to just squelch it, but it was like burning.
Wow.
Horrible. Horrible,
Wow.
horrible, horrible. So I hope
Mm.
you feel better. I get it.
Yes. Thank you, honey. I'm happy that you're feeling better.
Yes, me too. That's the worst feeling ever. I don't know. Like, not that you choose any sort of sickness or illness for yourself, but like one of my things that I absolutely can't stand is anything itchy. That drives me crazy.
Yeah. Yes.
Drives me
Yes. No,
mad.
it's true. It's true. Yep. That's true. Absolutely. If you itch it, it makes it worse. But then you have to
Exactly.
tolerate. Yep. Hmm.
Just even tapping it is uncomfortable.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
morning,
Hi.
Sally.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I love that beautiful slide.
Thank you. I finally think I found like a template I like. I'm really funny about that stuff. Like,
No, me too. Once
you
you like
know,
something, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think I'll keep it. Good morning, Deonta. Good morning, Tessa.
Good
Hi.
morning.
How are you?
Wonderful. Happy to see you all.
Yes,
Good
likewise.
Likewise,
morning.
good morning.
Yes.
Oh, you can't see
Okay.
me. Hold on.
Now
Oh,
we can.
Oh,
almost.
Wait.
oh.
There you are. Wait, where are you, Tessa? You in a
Oh,
yoga
no.
room?
Uh-uh.
No, no, no. I know it's a
It,
Zoom background.
yeah.
It's an aesthetic.
It's Zen. Sometimes you need some Zen behind you for some of these meetings that you got
Oh,
to be in. So.
Yeah.
No,
I
it's
like
true.
it.
I
I
love
like it.
it.
Oh, well, I'll keep it for this meeting. Y'all enjoy.
Oh gosh. Okay. So God, why do I never know how to mute everybody? Can everybody mute themselves? I'm
Sure.
sorry. All right. Awesome. Hi, ladies. Thank you for being here. Um, I know Kirsten wasn't going to be here today, so she won't, but some others may trickle in, but I just want to like keep on target with time. Hopefully you all have had, a decent week. Alicia and I were chatting. It's been a rough one this week. It's just um for me, between my partner, him having a death in the family, and then like literally in the last 24 hours, me just having like a complete tailspin of my dad just like having to be hospitalized. He's fine, he's back home, but it was a quick little moment of pause for me anyway. So it's just been a wild week. So yeah, hopefully you all had a better one. I'm glad we're together. Um, Before I jump into things, I wanted to do like just some quick housekeeping about some stuff. So I pride myself on being transparent about all things, and it's never cute like when you're part of a group and like you stop seeing a certain face around, it's like, oh, what happened to that person? So as the founder, I feel like let me address. So Salima obviously was, part of the group before. She had to step away, just like for personal reasons. So, I just wanted to address that openly, and I support her in her decision to do so. I think it's important for us to honor where we're at and, what we need in any moment. And so, she couldn't continue on with us. But I wanted to address that so it wasn't like, oh, dang, what happened to Salima, so that's that on that. And obviously, I think most of us know that Shelly has been, out extended with, due to a medical thing that she's dealing with. But I know that she is improving and healing, and hopefully we'll be able to welcome her back pretty soon. We recently, well, not recently, last weekend, we had our first book club. So I wanted to address that and just say, thank you to those of you that participated in it. I think it was a robust conversation. I think that I know for me, I learned a lot about each of you, and felt like I left there with, a much more global perspective on the topic of colorism. I completely honor the fact that it was deep and maybe even difficult at times. But to be really frank, uh, TTPC for me, I think the best thing that I can do with TTPC for us is to make sure that we have these conversations and that we address them. Like, it's super easy for us to go out there in the world and point out the ways in which white people affect us, right? Those are really clear to us. But as a group of women that are, BIPOC or representing those communities, I feel like we have a duty to do that internal work together, however messy that may be, right? However hard that may be, and take the lessons we learn from that and go forth and kind of be better, spring forth a better reality for ourselves. So, um, totally thankful for you all just showing up. I know we weren't really able to like read that book. It's a Bible, as I said. I think it's a book I'll be reading for a long time to come, and definitely feel like I'm going to incorporate that in a lot of the DEIB work that I'm doing currently, because I do think a lot of it is relevant and pertinent to things I'm talking about. So, wanted to share that because, that was an experimental thing for us. And, I'm really happy that we launched it and did it in part. And I'm looking forward to us doing some more of it. So let me get into this. So without further ado, we always share our wins. Let's talk about how you're winning. Doesn't have to be just professional in nature. Like, if you washed your clothes and folded them as they came out the dryer this month, and that's all that you accomplished, let's celebrate that. If you drank more water this month, let's celebrate that. It's literally anything at this point, but anybody that wants to jump in, feel free.
I'll jump in. I've been celebrating um, a success, a little plateau that I never thought I would reach. I had reached my max weight, heaviest that I'd ever been. And I tried so many things, as we all do, with a goal now of just really wanting to be healthy and vibrant. I'm in my 40s. Let's get this right. And so, but I was so unsuccessful. So I have just with little changes, and I know we all say water's the key. For me, it has been. I experience my best results when I make sure to drink all my water. And so I am, it's I really cannot see visually the difference. It's not about that. I never felt like, oh, I looked gross or anything like that. I didn't have that thing going on. I just knew I needed to be healthier. And I'm having some great success. And I'm happy. And I'm here to say at 43, y'all can do it too. I don't know how old anybody is, but I did at 43. You can do it too.
Congratulations. This is Deonta. I definitely want to congratulate you on that, and that state of mind too, of not being focused on the number on the scale, but how you feel. Um, for me, I've got professional wins. It was a good week. I think you all know that I stepped into a new role in September, and that's been a lot of work and creating some stress. But this week was not as stressful of a week. I still had a lot of deliverables, got those done. But I think just embracing that, I have a good leader who does not expect me to know everything or get everything perfect, and to learn as I go. So I'm getting more comfortable with that. And I mean, obviously still delivering things that I need to in quality that I'm happy with, quality work. Professionally, I decided to do Lent, participate in Lent this year, even though I am not Catholic. I wanted to put some good practices into place and not eat as much sugar. Sweets are my default. If I'm having a stressful day, it's either a cocktail, which I have not been able to get rid of, but the sugar I'm doing better with. And so I'm happy with where I am, and it's a good week. So I'm looking forward to next week.
I love all these healthy. Oh, sorry, I can wait. I'll mute myself.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So I love all these healthy wins. My win, work has been ridiculously crazy. In a sense of we can't get ourselves figured out what's important. We're wrapping up Q2 and everything seems important, which with a small team. So it's been crazy. And I took on this special project with the HR leadership team. And I don't know why. I raised my hand. I said I would do it, thinking there would be lots of humans. Well, it was just me and an SVP. And I somehow raised my hand to design a guide for benefits. I don't know. It was overstretching, but my feedback came back from marketing. They approved it without a single change, not even anything. It was like impressive work. Kudos. I was like, are you sure? So that's my win, that I guess my creative heart is still okay. It's still there. I think it's going to be a big win later, but getting that approved was big for me this week.
Uh-oh. Sorry about that. A call came in as soon as I hit the unmute. Good morning, guys. It's wonderful to hear everyone's success. Win for me has been my continued effort to stay on track with self-care. And typically I'll start off with a plan to, similar to Tessa, trying to maintain a certain health status in terms of my weight, and keeping hydrated and getting enough sleep. And though I'm not perfect in all those areas, it's still a process that I'm working on. I have been successful with at least implementing 20 minutes of exercise so far every day for the last month and a half. So that is a huge success for me. That's it.
I think that was pretty much everybody, with the exception of Janelle. Good morning, Janelle. Do you have anything you want to share today?
Morning, everyone. How are you? I'm actually in transition, but I wanted to make sure that I got on this call. Um, I was just going to share that for professionally, definitely, I've been working on a couple of programs that I've been executing, mainly helping women in the community with financial literacy and partnering with Capital One, and they are giving low income women a big incentive, which is really great. And so I'm excited about that because I feel like I'm doing something that is really going to help people. So I always get excited about that. And then there's a youth program that I just launched as well, where we're reaching out to more youth. I'm sure everyone does know by now that I work for Dress for Success, what helps women on their path to self-sufficiency. So being able to still do the youth part of it, which is what I did before I went there, just really is a passionate thing of mine. So it's a personal win for me too, because through that time, I really realized that one of my talents is really taking a program and taking it to the next level. And so I just think about that when I add that to my professional skills, which I never really thought about that as an aspect of my professional growth. But I'm excited about that, and everything about that makes everything in my life happy because I'm like, we're actually still doing some work and still helping people. And especially during this time, it's just so important to me to feel like, what we're doing, what I'm doing is going to help. Thank you. And congratulations on everyone else's wins.
That's awesome. I love it. Everybody's doing great things. And I know Jazzy just hopped in, but I'm not going to put her on the hot seat. Just want to say good morning, Jazzy. I guess I'll share. So I actually had a pretty big win in the last 2 weeks. So the backstory is I've been creating like all sorts of brands. I've had my company since 2013. And I've just been in this state of like perpetual creation since that time, or even before, dare I say, 2010. And I'll say, when you go into business for yourself, one of the more expensive aspects to, securing your things is securing your things, is securing your IP, getting trademarks and copyrights, and making sure that you own your brands. And so 8 years later, this was the first year I was able to address that. And I got my approval literally about 2 weeks ago that my business, all my logos, past and present, like pretty much everything I've created is now trademarked and copywritten through USPTO, the patent office. And so, I mean, that includes like my podcast, my blog, any methodologies I've created. Um, my boutique shop that I have, like so many different things. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I probably bawled for like half a day when I got the news from my attorney, because it just means that everything I've built is now mine. And that includes the power circle. So it was a big win for me, for my business, for everything that I've been trying to put out there in the world for the last decade. So that was a huge win. I also had my first international talk for the year last week with Innovation Circus. It was called Cultivating Conscious Citizenship, and it went really well, it was very well received. So I was really excited, about being able to put that kind of work out there in the world. I think similar to Janelle, as we move along in our careers and in our lives, we find ourselves pivoted and taken in different directions. But there are some things I think that are fundamental to who we are and the things that we're excited about, that it's nice to have people you recognize, the things you're passionate about. And so that talk was something that I'm super passionate about, in terms of people just being really conscious of their impact in the world and how they affect people, particularly BIPOC people. And so it was just great to have that platform and share that. So those are my wins. Um, why? Hold on, guys. Okay. So just a quick note before we get on with things. I think I only have like 5 responses on the TTPC Executive Council survey. Super important to me that I get like the bulk of everybody really participating in this. Completely get it. People are busy. You got a lot of stuff going on, but really this survey is designed so that we can better serve you. So I can better serve you, so the executive council can come together and build some really niche things that will really be, targeted to the things that you need. So Don't be surprised if I look at the responses and I start tagging specific names in Slack. It's not to call you out, it's just because I really would like to get this tied up by this week so that I can start like kind of combing through the results and hopefully report out to you like what the path forward is in April. So yeah, that's my little footnote as the founder about the survey. So today we are going to talk about nurturing and embracing your feminine energy. Um, I'm not one to really want to do things just because it's a certain month, because I think a lot of the things we try to segment or push or contract into a month are issues that are worthy of discussion all year round, right? Like, case in point, Black History Month. While I quite enjoy Black History Month and all that it's worth, to me, the discussion of Black people, African peoples, is something that should be discussed 365 days a year, 366 on a leap year. That's just my personal opinion. But okay, for the month, fine. And so, fast forward to March, it's Women's History Month, which, everything woman gets discussed during this month. But I thought rather than talk about the obvious things that we know about, pay inequity and, just who served us in the past and who's doing what in the present. I thought it would be an interesting conversation to talk about feminine energy and like how we can become more whole beings as women. So my footprint with all of this and why it's important to me is because personally for me, I have had to, what I call, dance my way back to my feminine, right? And what do I mean by that? Meaning that there was a period of time in my life not too long ago where I definitely was in somewhat of a distortion of myself, and I didn't even realize it. And it caused me to kind of take a step back and examine myself, who I've been, who I've become, why certain aspects of myself were showing up, and to address them. So that's the crux of where we're going with this. And so I don't ever suspect that when I'm going through these things that it's just me, or that I can only benefit, or that, it's secular to just Janine. It's a real thing. It's a conversation I've been having for a while with a lot of women, or those at least that are open to that discussion. And so hopefully we'll have a good conversation about it, and you'll tell me what you think and where you are on the continuum of really looking at some of this. So I'll share this quote with you because I think that it's a good starting off point for where we're going to go. We all have at least three or more active aspects or personalities within ourselves. Each of these personalities develops in divine time to aid our growth and development. To be effective, these various parts of ourselves must come into harmonious union and work in concert for the greater good. So this quote is from a book that I have called The Sacred Woman. It's by Queen Afua. If you're not familiar with it, definitely jot it down, or if somebody wants to throw it in the chat, please feel free. It's a Bible of a book. I know I've been saying that a lot, but when I say that for a reason. When you think about the Bible, or any sort of text like that, it's the sort of thing that you don't just read once and read it through and say, okay, I'm done. It's the sort of book that you read, or it is presented to you, in my opinion, at a time in your life when you need it the most. And there's probably going to be one aspect in that book at that time that you're going to deal with, because there's so many things that you have to look at. But realistically, you'll be reading the book probably for the rest of your life at different points, depending on how you're showing up in the world. So this quote is poignant to me because I think that we often get bogged down in this notion of gender, which is, I'm a female, he's a male, I'm a woman, he's a man. And within the spectrums of those genders, there are just society and of course, cultural conditioning and all sorts of things has taught us that there's a certain set of qualities that are just segmented for female or feminine energy and some that are for male. And the reality actually is it's not all that true. So while yes, there are qualities that are strictly feminine and there are qualities that are strictly masculine, the reality is that we embody or we to greater or lesser extents, we are embodying each of those aspects. And that's what makes us whole. To the extent that anything is lacking is when we start to get into some trouble, but we spend the better half of our lives basically trying to figure out those various parts of ourselves and then integrating them into something that we can feel good about in some way, shape, or form. So when I'm talking about feminine energy, and again, I'm talking energy because, again, men, women, we all embody both of these things. So we have to be able to break them down into things that we know so that you understand what is thoroughly feminine, what is thoroughly masculine. It's very yin yang. So with feminine energy is very, it's intuitive. It's our intuitive spirit. It's our ability to sense. It's our expressiveness. It is our ability to create, to be nurturing, to be emotional, to be sensual. It's this state of being grounded and allowing, collaborative. In a lot of cultures, feminine energy is seen as earth, right? Like we govern the nature of things. So that's where feminine energy is. Where we've kind of been duped is in thinking that there's not strength. So you like for a long time, it would be like, well, women are so emotional and, women are kind of here, there, and everywhere, chaotic, if you will, similar to nature. And never once does anybody kind of attribute these qualities to that being strength, right? It's like women weak, men strong. That is absolutely erroneous. Masculine energy. So when we talk about masculine energy, it's our ability. And again, this is not male, female, woman, or man. This is just energetically, these are how we express ourselves. So from a masculine energy perspective, that is what governs logical thought, your ability to be decisive, your ability to take risks, your want, your desire to achieve, to control, to be competitive. That's all masculine. So from a totality standpoint, that would be your masculine end. Your feminine end would be where you create, right? So, if you find yourself to be like, there's a lot of talk often about the alpha woman, the one that goes out and she gets what she wants and she's taking all the money, she's grabbing, she's securing all the bags, she's at the table, people respect her. She's probably heavily in her masculine energy, right? And she might have some feminine aspects that are really strong, but generally, if she were to have all of that decisiveness, logical, being, achieving, focus, just being strictly intellectual without like having like some sort of creative outlet, some sort of beingness of flow, we would say that she's a bit distorted in her feminine, but high on her masculine energy. So that would then create an imbalance. So when we talk about imbalances, when we experience an imbalance within ourselves or in our relationships, it's often due to distortions or perversions of one of these aspects, right? So for instance, if you take someone who says, hey, I really just like to be behind the scenes and kind of, create and just be, but, I feel really funny about putting myself out there. I feel really funny about using my voice. They're almost in like a victimized state. That would be what we would call a distortion or a perversion of the feminine aspect or even the masculine aspect, right? So they, in that case, they're really strong on the feminine aspect in the sense that they kind of allow for a lot of things. They may not have really great boundaries, um, you know, but in terms of asserting themselves and being somewhat ambitious or courageous in their expressiveness, that's a bit distorted. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's just understanding that where that comes from and dealing with why that is. So what I've learned is that we all have to express and be cool with the full spectrum of who we are. For me, for a really long time, I prided myself on my achievements, how far I was moving up the ladder, what certification I had gotten, what job I was holding, the title I had. I've always been creative. I've known that since I was a child. Um, and exhibited in different ways in different times in my life. But there was definitely a point in my life, I think, when I started my career and got going, where a lot of that just left me. I lost that feminine nature. I lost that ability to just express, to just be, to not be so in my head, so intellectual, which is a masculine quality. Um, that it prevented me from expressing the full spectrum of whomever Janine is meant to be, right? And so I've spent like the last 5 to 6 years ish unraveling that, trying to get to the story behind the story about like how I got to that place and why it was that I was so stifled in one part of my being and so comfortable, like almost too comfortable in this other aspect, which was my masculine, right? So another book I'm just going to throw out there, Women Who Run with Wolves. It's another one of those lengthy features that you'll be digging through for the rest of your days, but quite frankly, changed my whole perspective on what it means to be a woman, without the lens of patriarchy, without the lens of white feminism, without, the lens of anything I learned really about what it means to be a woman, whether that be my cultural conditioning, how I grew up, things I was told along the way. This book did it for me. And so, one of the things that Dr. Pinkola Estes says in the book is it is typical for women to be afraid to let the too comfortable and too safe life die. She is afraid to be without security or certainty, even for a short time. And then she goes on to state that what we really need to be doing is to dive in, to stand in, not knowing what happens next. It is the thing that allows us to retrieve our intuitive nature. And it makes perfect sense, right? So, from a masculine perspective, this need, and I had it, I had this need to always know what was going to happen next, right? I was very good at moving the pieces on my board accordingly. It was like, okay, if I make this move, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this certification by this time. And then, 3 years out, I'm going to be in this title, in this position, in this company. And, you know, that ambition, there's nothing wrong with it. It's still a part of me. It still drives me in my business and my endeavors. But being too comfortable in knowing like the next steps is a perversion, right? Being too safe is a perversion. Being too comfortable is a perversion. Being too much of anything actually is a perversion and a distortion in that, like, if you're too nice, right? That's another thing that women get pinned on them that we really shouldn't, that we're supposed to be nice. And especially us as women of color, Black women being probably at the top of getting beat down for these sorts of things is, you know, oh, you're angry. Why don't you smile more? You know, you're not nice enough. And the reality is there's a perversion in being too nice, because when you are too nice, that is when you experience all these things that let you know, hey, this is probably, these are moments in which we're teaching you how not to be nice, how to look after yourself, how to protect yourself, how to not let people take advantage of you. Because being a victim is a distortion, right? None of us are really a victim per se, right? There is some sort of reverence, like sordid reverence out there in our culture that says that, you know, oh, you're a victim, so now people pity you, and there's a certain due care that this society then wants to give you for being the victim. But truthfully, we all have the ability to be the heroines of our own story. That's the reality of things. We can point out many women and people who have, you know, accomplished that. To that end, the other end of that spectrum is being the perpetuator or the bully, you know, whatever, the villain, if you will. And that's more masculine. That's where you are ultra aggressive, and maybe just not the nicest person. You know what I mean? So there's too nice, and then there's just being a horrible individual, behaviorally and ideology wise, and that doesn't work either, right? And so then from that end, life will teach you how you ought to be more nice. Whether you want to take the lessons or not is up to you. But I guess what I'm sharing is that, you know, until we kind of like pull all these different aspects of ourselves together, um, you'll continuously be meeting these lessons that you won't know why they're hitting you over the head in that way. And they're really there to serve you to come into more of who you're really supposed to be, like from a holistic standpoint, good, bad, or indifferent. This is who you're meant to be. And so, like, part of the work that we do to get there is, you know, something they call shadow work, which I've talked about probably here before. But when we talk about shadow behaviors, they are more often than not these behaviors that we try to hide, repress, or deny. And that's a hard thing to do, because most of what our egos want us to do is to tell ourselves just how great we are, right? We pride ourselves on our strengths. Most of us are in, you know, some sort of ability to hire or have, you know, work in HR, or have been interviewed. Think about when you've gone out and you've interviewed and they ask you that question of, you know, what are your strengths versus what are your weaknesses. I always hated that weakness part. I would always reframe it, but I digress. But you get my point. Like, when it comes down to talking about strengths, people, I know from me, from an interviewer standpoint, people rattle off those strengths like it's nobody's business. I'm great. I'm a team player. I'm communicative. Like, they'll rattle that off. The second I get to, hey, in what ways do you feel you can improve your craft, or what ways do you want to improve yourself? That question, there's going to almost always be about a minute or so of silence before they can dig in. And the list of things that they can improve, more often than not, are short by comparison to the strengths. Is it because people are egotistical? Perhaps. But I would venture to think it's because our society doesn't support us understanding ourselves from a holistic perspective. And because of that, there are things each of us, even on this call, know about ourselves that maybe nobody else does or nobody ever will, because we hide, we repress, we deny those aspects of ourselves, either because we've been told that they're not favorable out there in the world. And so keep that there. Um, or it's been, you know, conditioned out of you, right? Or there's a certain shame attached to it for whatever it is. The reality is those are valid feelings, but at the same token, it's all still wholly you, right? It's still you. I think met quite a few meetings back, Shelly and I were on early and we were talking, and she and I were sharing about she was like, at this particular age, she's like, I don't have time to be denying any part of what I am, whether it's good, you view it as good, bad, or indifferent. And so she and I were sharing about, our approaches to patients. And I've long said, when they mixed up Janine Nicole, patience was like Salt Bay. They went like this, you know, just a little. They didn't give me a lot, just like not like a pinch, like maybe 1/16 of a pinch. It is what it is. Now, in society, we're told like, oh, patience is a virtue. And it's true. I'm not denying that. But for me, there is a certain liberation I feel, to be able to say that aloud, that like, hey, will I be patient? Have I learned to be patient? Absolutely. Is it my strong suit? Absolutely not. And that's okay. Right? So like from a shadow perspective, that would be part of my shadow. And there are other things, but what I've found is when you can look at those parts of yourself and make peace with it, they get quieter. And then you have a little bit more room to kind of yield them and put them where they need to be and use them when they're best suited, instead of being chaotic and just emotional, overly emotional, and just kind of wily in that way. So, how do we kind of come into union with yourself? This is a big topic, but I try to kind of synthesize it into something that makes sense. And when I say coming into union with yourself, I think a lot of times, and this is true for women, and I think it's an important point to make, we get told that the way we come into union, or the way we complete ourselves, is through another person. And that is probably the most dangerous messaging that any of us could have received, if we received it. I don't want to assume that that was the messaging you received, but I think we can all agree that it is a message out there in the ether to women that somehow you are completed by another person, as in a man, relationship, or whatever. And the reality is that's just not it. It's actually the man within you. It's the masculine within you that needs completion, right? If that's the case, or it's the feminine that requires completion within you. And then they both have to work in concert. When that happens, however, then you probably are in the best state ever to then be mating with the other, whatever that may be for you. But there are no others. There is no one that can complete you. It's a complete inner job. And so, for me, the key to living an effective and mastered life, and when I say mastered, meaning that it's my belief that we're here to master what it is to be human, agnostic of religious anything or whatever. We're constantly being pushed to level up, if we allow it, so that we can master aspects of ourselves to become more of whoever we're supposed to be. That's going to be different for everybody. But the way we do that is to consistently examine ourselves, which, for a lot of people, they're like, well, I don't have the time. I'm working. Like, who has time to sit and examine themselves? I am uber proud of us and this group, because from what I heard earlier, particularly around wins, um, it sounds like, you are mastering yourself, you are examining yourself, you are honoring the things that are going on in your body, and the things that feel right for you. So in that way, I feel like pretty much everybody here is on the road to mastering and living a more meaningful life from that perspective. But more than that, it really is also examining, what is the story behind the story, right? Like, for you, who are the cast of characters? Who are the people? What are the circumstances that contributed to you being you? And that's something we started unpacking a bit when we started talking about like generational trauma, and how that affects that. It's all tied to that. So depending on how you saw your own mother or the women in your family show up, um, if you had that experience, really will dictate how you see your own womanness and your own being and your own thoughts about how you had to show up in the world. Conversely, any male figures that you had in your life also would have given you a perspective on how to show up as a woman and how to exhibit those qualities on both ends of those spectrums, based on whatever that conditioning was. And so it's a daunting task and it takes time. It's not an overnight thing, but I promise you, sitting down a little bit every week and really just giving some thought to those things, and evaluating them in terms of things that you find yourself doing that maybe you want to change, I think is valuable. You know, if you find that you're not as creative, but you really know there's a creativity within you and you want to express that, you've got to go back and peel back the layers as to like where along the line did creativity become a weakness for you, or where did it become like less of a priority and why is that? And then little by little you can start dancing your way back to that. But it's all an inner job. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. I'm doing this whole thing now. It's called Chant and Chat. It's part of the brand. Um, you know, because I feel like everybody's like on mantras and affirmations, and because I am who I am, I have to be different. I never like to do anything that I see anybody else doing. So this is our thing now. But I'll read it for you. It will obviously be in the drive, and I encourage you to go back to it and kind of use it as your guide for the remainder of this month and even going forward. You know, as you think about some of the things that I shared, in a lot of ways, right? We were just in winter. Winter's going to be ending in like 2 weeks. When you think about the nature of winter, and I'm big on seasons and what it shares with us, largely because of my shamanic training. Winter, like everything dies, right? You look around, the trees are bare. There's not a leaf, there's no flowers. I mean, there's just nothing. It's really quite dismal. And so now it's like, if you really think about how you feel and how like the things you're going through, the cycle you're going through, especially us as women, I feel like we experience this a little bit more than men because we have that nature about ourselves. There's something in that season that dies for you, whether you want to recognize it or not. And so, you know, it's kind of kismet in a certain sense that Women's History Month happens to be March, the month where we turn the seasons to spring, right? Where everything comes alive again, where things bloom and blossom all over again. And in a certain way, so do we, if we allow it, right? In a certain way, we are reborn too. Um, should we want to do that work? Should we want to allow for our beingness to be reborn into something different? And so here's the chants and chat. So this month, let us celebrate our lives. So we're so busy, in my opinion, celebrating other people and all the things. Women's History Month, like celebrate yourself. It's not selfish. It's a practice that we need to get into, and I feel like as women of color, it's a practice we don't exhibit enough. Like we don't celebrate ourselves enough, we don't toot our horns enough, we don't put our accolades out there enough. That's why I start the meetings the way I do. So I'm encouraging you to celebrate your life. So this month, let us celebrate our lives. May we embrace and mourn the death of those things that so graciously taught us where we need to love ourselves more. May we breathe through the release of outdated versions of ourselves. Let us justify this divine breath by releasing the false mask we wear to be accepted. In this release, may we trust in our being restored. So I know that's a lot, but again, I encourage you, go back. It'll be in the drive. You can print it. You can put it like conspicuously where you can read it every day. So it's like something you start your day with, or, you know, when you get like bogged down in the go, 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 it can be a centering moment for you. But um, this is a season of rebirth. And I encourage you to take some of what I said, although it's a lot, and really start to look at yourself as a persona and kind of examine where you are exhibiting more of your qualities. Is it more in the masculine? Is it more in the feminine? Um, are you balanced? If you are, like you may find that you have a good balance, in which case you're good, and it's not, when I say you're good, I don't mean you're good like, okay, hang it up. I just mean that it's worthy of examining that that's the case so that you know how to keep that homeostasis and equilibrium going. But if not, and there are still distortions and perversions to your psyche in any which way, it's worthy of exploring why that is and starting to kind of chip away at, how you can balance the scales a little bit more. So I am going to stop there, and I'm going to open it up to you all to just, share your thoughts about anything that came up for you as I was speaking, if it resonated, how you will use some of what you heard in the next month, you know, for your own personal development.
Hi, so when you talked about balance and video, when you talked about balance, when you talked about femininity and masculinity and, what completes you, but looking at that internally versus externally, looking for someone else to balance that resonated with me because that is, that's not what we're taught. That's not what I go to. So I love that. And that's one thing I'll focus on. And I do love what you just shared as well. So thanks. I'll be printing that up and posting it up.
Awesome. Thanks, Tessa. I'm glad. Anyone else?
Hey, this is Jasmine, and um, I really loved what was shared today because I feel like I am on a journey of understanding who I am as a person, especially right now with so many different moving parts in my life. So I really feel like this one definitely helped me and gave me some books I can, look into and try to have a better understanding. And it's also interesting about how we talked about strength and weaknesses because when you were talking, I realized in my last job interview for the company that I currently work for now, he asked me what my strengths were, but he didn't ask me what my weaknesses were. He asked me if there were any skills or competencies that I felt I could work on to better myself in my career. And I didn't think about it at the time, but just listening to you talk about how we ask people what their weaknesses are, but then we down people for discussing weaknesses, especially in the workplace. And so I really thought about that when you were talking about the strength and weakness. And that's something that I think going forward, I would push people to ask in that way instead of asking people, what are your weaknesses? So I just really, really enjoyed that. Thank you.
This hit home for me as well because, I mean, Janine knows this. I've been doing so much work on myself. In the past 4 years, I would say moving to Portland really brought up a stir. But the part that resonated with me most, because I didn't know it now then, but I know it now, is how your parents like influence so much of who you are. So for example, my mom was a teen mom and she was a stay-at-home. And so growing up, my talk track to myself was, go to college, you're not going to be your mom, you're never going to be a stay-at-home, you're going to be this, you're just going to be this, successful woman, you're going to be better. And I didn't realize that until I started doing therapy, because my expectations were so high of myself that when I failed, it would really bring me down. And so it's crazy. All this stuff that you said today is just exactly what I've been working on therapy. It's just you articulate in a different way, but it's eye-opening. And all because of this, my masculine was way off because I felt that I needed to be like my father, like the breadwinner, the head bitch in charge, part of my language, but you know what I mean? So I've been working on that. And I will say, when you listed all of the traits on the feminine side, I was like, oh my God, I feel creative. So I'm definitely seeing a change in me. So this is great for me. Thank you.
Hi, I would have to, echo a lot of what everyone else said. The presentation is totally in alignment with what I've been working on. I would say over the last year and a half, trying to find that balance, trying to find out who Alicia really is, because for so long I've been you know, the people pleaser, always putting everyone else before myself, always trying to, obtain additional accomplishments after accomplishments and acquiring more and more. But in doing all of that, not really paying attention to more meaningful and more joyous things, which goes back to just having a balance in life. So no, Janine, a lot of what you said today absolutely resonates with me, and it just confirms that the path that I'm on is the path that I should be on to get me to where I need to be. So thank you.
I love it. I'm glad it resonated. I'm glad. Yeah. So thank you so much for the feedback. It's good to know that like we're all kind of in a similar space and on this path together. And like I said, it's not something, that happens overnight. It's an incremental walk. And sometimes you take 2 steps forward and you take a few steps back. Like I said, I've been at this for a lot of years now. And I've had various teachers show up, to illuminate it. It's really quite jarring when, you, for instance, enter a new relationship and you realize like, wow, I really don't know how to receive. Like that was one of the things for me. I had been so good at being a giver. I prided myself on being a giver and always doing and going above and beyond for others. And had to come to terms with the fact that like I was lacking in some of my feminine energy where I couldn't receive, like not even a compliment. Like I would be this sort of person where even if you give me a compliment, I'm throwing a compliment back at you. And it's still something I struggle with now. Like people will compliment me and I will feel this inner urge, like I have to say something nice back rather than just like sit in it and bask in the fact that someone feels that's what they feel about their experience with me and just leaving it there. That is like probably something that you don't pick up on, but like we all, I feel like a lot of women do it. It's like, I got to say something nice back, or someone gives you a gift and you're like, oh my God, how can I repay you? What can I give you back? And so, you're firmly in your feminine and it is well, when you can receive, right? When you stop priding yourself on being a martyr and having to fix all the things and do all the things, and you can actually just receive whatever that is, blessings, compliments, like all the things. That's the true state of the feminine. So I will leave it there. I think that we'll continue to build on this conversation some as the months go on, because I think it's important. It's an important aspect of personal development. It seems like we're all there. So, I'll be sure that next month we kind of build on this conversation and look at another slice of it so we can continue to be better. But I won't hold you all. It's 11:01. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day. And I'll see you guys soon.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Happy Saturday. Bye.